Hyperion, or the Hermit in Greece, by Friedrich Hölderlin. Hyperion to Bellarmine. Once again, the dear soil of my native country brings me sorrow and joy. Now every morning finds me on the heights of the Corinthian isthmus, and often, like a bee among flowers, my soul flies back and forth between the seas that, to left and right, cool the feet of my glowing mountains. One of the two gulfs would have delighted me especially had I stood here 1,000 years ago. Then, surging on a conquering demigod between the beautiful wilderness of Helicon and Parnassus, where the red of dawn plays among 100 snow-covered peaks, and the paradisal plain of Sicyon, the shining gulf undulated toward the city of joy, youthful Corinth, pouring out the captured wealth of every region before its favorite. But what is that to me? The cry of the jackal, chanting his wild threnody amid the rubble of antiquity, startles me from my dreams. Fortunate the man whose native country flourishes to rejoice and strengthen his heart. For me, it is as if I were cast into a swamp, as if the coffin lid were being nailed shut over me, if anyone reminds me of mine. And whenever I hear myself called a Greek, it is as if I were being throttled with a dog collar. And lo, my Bellarmine, often, when such a remark escaped me, and perhaps anger, brought a tear to my eye too, the knowing gentlemen who so much raising their voices among you Germans, and for whom a grieving heart makes the perfect opportunity to trot out their stale saws, lo, they were in their element. They presumed to tell me, do not complain, act. Oh, that I never acted! By how many hopes should I be the richer? Yes, only forget that there are men. O famished, beleaguered, infinitely troubled heart, and return thither whence you came, to the arms of nature, the changeless, the quiet, the beautiful. Hyperion to Bellarmine. I have nothing of which I may say that is mine. Distant and dead are my loved ones, and no voice brings me tidings of them more. My business on earth is over and done. I set to work full of determination. I gave of my blood to it, and made the world not a penny the richer. Unknown and alone, I have returned to wander through my native country, which lies about me like a vast graveyard. And perhaps what awaits me is the knife of the hunter, who preserves us Greeks for his sport, even as he does the wild beasts of the forest. Yet still, thou shiniest son of heaven, still dost thou grow green, sacred earth. Still the rivers roar to the sea, and shady trees rustle under the noon of day. Spring's song of bliss sings my mortal thoughts to sleep. The fullness of the living universe feeds and satisfies my starving being with its intoxication. O blessed nature, I know not how it is with me when I raise my eyes to thy beauty, but all the joy of heaven is in the tears that I weep in thy presence. Beloved of beloveds, my whole being falls silent and listens when the delicate swell of the breeze plays over my breast. Often lost in the wide blue, I look up into the ether and down into the sacred sea, and I feel as if a kindred spirit were opening its arms to me, as if the pain of solitude were dissolved in the life of the divinity. To be one with all, this is the life divine. This is man's heaven. To be one with all that lives, to return in blessed self-forgetfulness into the all of nature, This is the pinnacle of thoughts and joys. This, the sacred mountain peak, the place of eternal rest, where the noonday loses his oppressive heat, and the thunder its voice, and the boiling sea is as the heaving field of grain. To be one with all that lives. At those words, virtue puts off her wrathful armor. The mind of man lays its scepter down, and all thoughts vanish before the image of the world in its eternal oneness. Even as the striving artist rules, vanish. Before his Urania, an iron fate renounces her dominion, and death vanishes from the confederacy of beings, and indivisibility and eternal youth bless and beautify the world. On this height I often stand, my Bellarmine, but an instant of reflection hurls me down. I reflect and find myself as I was before, alone, with all the griefs of mortality and my heart's refuge. The world in its eternal oneness is gone. Nature closes her arms, and I stand like an alien before her, and understand her not. Ah, had I never gone to your schools, the knowledge which I pursued down to its tunnels and galleries from which, in my youthful folly, I expected the confirmation of all my pure joy, that knowledge has corrupted everything for me. Among you, I became so truly reasonable, learned so thoroughly to distinguish myself from what surrounds me, that now I am solitary in the beautiful world, an outcast from the garden of nature, in which I grew and flowered, drying up under the noonday sun. Ah, man is a god when he dreams, a beggar when he thinks, and when inspiration is gone, he stands like a worthless son, whom his father has driven out of the house, and stares at the miserable pains that pity has given him for the road. Hyperion to Bellarmine. I thank you for asking me to tell you of myself, for making me remember earlier days. What sent me back to Greece was wishing to live nearer to the places where I had played in my youth. As the laborer into refreshing sleep, so my beleaguered being often sinks into the arms of the innocent past. Peace of childhood, heavenly peace. How often do I pause before thee in loving contemplation, and fain would conceive thee, but our concepts are only of what has degenerated and been repaired. Of childhood, of innocence, we have no concept. When I was still a child and in quietude, knowing nothing of all that is about us, was I not then more than now I am? After all my trouble of heart, and all my thinking and struggling, yes, divine is the being of the child, so long as it has not been dipped into the chameleon colors of men. The child is wholly what it is, and that is why it is so beautiful. The pressure of law and fate touches it not. Only in the child is freedom. In the child is peace. It has not yet come to be at odds with itself. Wealth is in the child. It knows not its heart, nor the inadequacy of life. It is immortal, for it has not heard of death. But this men cannot bear. The divine must become like one of them, and must learn that they too are there. And before nature drives it out of its paradise, men entice and draw it out into the field of the curse, so that, like them, it shall drudge its life away in the sweat of its brow. But the time of awakening is beautiful too. If only we are not wakened unreasonably. Oh, they are sacred days, in which our heart first tries its wings, in which, bursting with swift, fiery growth, we stand in the glorious world like the young plant when it opens to the morning sun, and stretches its tiny arms toward the infinite sky. How was I driven then? To the mountains, to the seashore. Oh, how often I sat, with throbbing heart, on the heights of Tina and watched the falcons and the cranes and the bold rejoicing ships as they vanished below the horizon. There, I thought, there beyond the horizon you too will one day wander. And I felt as the man dying of thirst feels when he flings himself into the cooling current and splashes the foaming water over his face. Then would I turn and go home, sighing, "Ah, if only," I often thought, "my school years were over." Innocent lad, they are still far from over. That in his youth a man thinks the goal is so near. It is the most beautiful of all the illusions with which nature supports the weakness of our being. And often, as I lay there among the flowers, basking in the delicate spring light, and looking up into the serene blue that embraced the warm earth, when I sat under the elms and willows, on the side of the mountain, after a refreshing rain, when the branches were yet astir from the touch of the sky, and golden clouds moved over the dripping woods. Or when the evening star, breathing the spirit of peace, rose with the age-old youths and the other heroes of the sky, and I saw how the life in them moved on through the ether in eternal, effortless order, and the peace of the world surrounded and rejoiced me, so that I was suddenly alert and listening, yet did not know what was befalling me. "Dost thou love me, dear Father in heaven?" I whispered, and felt his answer so certainly and so blissfully in my heart. "O thou to whom I cried, as if thou wert above the stars, whom I named maker of heaven and earth, kindly idol of my childhood, thou wilt not be wroth that I forgot thee. Why is it the world not poor enough to make us seek another outside of it? Or, if glorious nature is the daughter of a father, is not the daughter's heart his heart, her inmost being? Is he not? But then, do I possess it? Do I know of it? It is as if I saw, but afterward I am filled with fear again, as if what I saw had been my own shape. It is as if I felt it, the spirit of the world, like a friend's warm hand. But I awake and think that I did but clasp my own finger.